In the previous lesson, you got an in-depth overview of how to create and navigate a workspace in Tosca. In this video, we will cover Tosca Workspace best practices. So by the end of this lesson, you will be able to recognize and explain the benefits of implementing best practices in a Tosca project, incorporate unified naming conventions throughout your entire project, make use of common component folders to share with all users, and finally, make use of the 4I principle for artifact review. Using best practices when working with Tosca will ensure easier maintenance, greater efficiency, and higher readability. However, it is important to identify first which best practices to use, depending on your project environment. As with any software, Tosca can be used in different ways to achieve the same outcome, so make sure to use best practices that most suit the needs of your project. Let's go through the most important best practices. It is most advisable to use naming conventions throughout the entire project. It is important to agree on a common naming convention within your team and apply it to all artifacts within the project. Choose a name first, and then a more granular description. Using naming conventions will keep your project readable and make it easier for everyone to understand when working in a distributed team environment. Also, it creates better business readability. Let's look at setting up a structure in your repository. Depending on whether you follow an agile or waterfall approach, you would set up your repository accordingly. Create component folders, and within those, you place section folders. It's important to define an appropriate naming convention throughout these folders as mentioned earlier. Here are some key tips for structuring your repository. First, have a component folder that includes templates and references. Template folders contain sample structures with your naming conventions that you can reuse as you add new components to your Tosca project. Second, have a component folder that includes content that is relevant for all projects. So that would be libraries and modules, for example. And third, have one component folder for each project. Within the folder, use the project name and the requirements, test case design, test cases, execution, and module folders. Another important best practice is to create artifacts based on the 4I principle. This means using the 3 approval stages for artifact creation: in work, ready for approval, and approved for artifact creation. New artifacts should only be created within in-work folders and then moved to the ready for approval folders. As soon as they are approved by someone else, they can be moved into the approved folders where they can be used. Additionally, in-work and ready for approval should include one folder for each Tosca user. By following these best practices, you will ensure consistency throughout your project, better readability, and communication not only in your team, but also with the business stakeholders, and therefore making your life a lot easier.